Localization, for our purposes, is the process of translating a creative work for a local audience. It is not merely translating the text or dialogue from one language to another, it requires the translation of the text's context and meaning from one language and/or culture to another. A joke could be based on a pun or rhyme, or a puzzle on the construction of language. This puts heavy reliance on that language, so is unlikely to retain its features as a joke or puzzle with a mere direct translation. In Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, yeah, I know, maybe not the best example for translating understanding, given that the author has failed to understand other people's experiences in her own language and culture, but in the Chamber of Secrets, Voldemort is given a middle name that in all respects is nonsense. Marvolo is not a real name. Yes, it's consonants and vowels arranged in a way that mimics a name, but was entirely invented for a definitive purpose. Spoiler warning for a 22-year-old movie and a 26-year-old book. Jesus. Am I gonna die? What am I doing this for? The end of the film reveals that Tom Riddle, a former student at Hogwarts, with whom our hero Harry has formed a friendship through becoming magical pen pals, is in fact series antagonist Lord Voldemort. And this revelation is conveyed through anagram, in a way that treats it as a riddle. That's not a pun, to be clear, because the name Riddle is by design. It is written as a twist that the audience are supposed to, when they reach the end of the film, have that aha moment. They think back to all the clues that were given and sit in disbelief in how they missed it. His name is literally Riddle. It's the feeling audiences had when they first saw The Sixth Sense, but here the twist is kind of silly, childish, which is fine. It is a series for children, but let's not pretend it's anything more. The anagram riddle forced the need for the ridiculous middle name. Okay, fine. There is a bunch of silly and/or racist made-up names in the Harry Potter series. What's another, right? However, the in-world justification is the reverse. Tom Marvolo Riddle was just his name. So the name Voldemort came from the Dark Lord sitting down with a bag of Scrabble tiles strewn out on the floor, going, I am TLDR Doom Lord. No, that's not it. Aha! I am Odell Tordov. No, that sounds like a tween who streams Roblox. I wish my parents didn't give me a shit middle name, which now hampers my dorkish love of taking letters ordered in one way that forms words and putting them in a different order that produces different words. He's lame now. I don't know which is stupider, the Dark Lord doing it or J.K. Rowling doing it, because it's the first one. Anyway, let's look at what happens if a localizer only translates the words in and of themselves. For example, in French, Tom is Tom, and rail means rail. No, but Tom works as a French name, so there's no equivalent like, how James is Jacques. And Marvolo will be Marvolo because, again, it is a made-up and very, very silly name. Riddle, of course, will have a translation. The best approximation might be enigme.
Énigme.
Lord could stay, or perhaps maître, being a sense of control over others, but it also denotes someone who passes on knowledge. So I might stick with Lord for this example. So we have Tom Marvolo Enigme, when rearranged becomes Je suis Lord Voldemort. No, it doesn't. You could just drop the anagram, I suppose. Tom just called himself Lord Voldemort because it sounds imposing. I'd argue it's an improvement, but it's a fundamentally different experience than the one that the original audience has. It is, as a translation of the story, insufficient and ineffective. The role of a localizer is a creative one. There will be instances in which they need to utilize a spark of their own creative spirit in order to give the local audience the same or at least a similar experience of the work being translated. That is what happened with the Chamber of Secrets example. Each localizer or localization team approached the task in different ways, which is kind of the point. To continue with the French example, Je suis Voldemort was rearranged from Tom Elvis Je de Sor. As mentioned earlier, the best approximation for riddle is probably enigme, but there is no G or N in Je suis Voldemort. So what did the localizers do? They created a name based on a play on words. Je de sort, which would be pronounced the same way, means something along the lines of a twist of fate. The twist at the end of the book is therefore foreshadowed by such a name, and it anagrams to a line comparable to I am Lord Voldemort. But before we move on, this video is sponsored by Attack of Wrath, and coincidentally it's literally my favorite game to play right now. Attack of Wrath is a brand new high fantasy roguelite infinite runner RPG collectathon that's free to play right now on mobile. Tons of people are already playing. I mean, players have spent over $1 billion in this game. And as we all know, money equals popular and popular equals good. What I love about this game is the way that the longer you play the game, the longer you need to spend in the game. Let me explain. This game goes above and beyond to tighten drops, to tighten progression. The more you play it, it's great. But hey, that's not your thing, don't worry. Throw it on autoplay, an amazing feature that takes that grind and prevents you doing anything else with your phone for the next 6 hours. Watch along as your heroes complete story missions without lifting a finger, except perhaps to click the buy button when the autoplay can't progress any further without money or 4 more hours. The flashy images and illusion of interactivity mixed with a play per line equivalent is de facto, dare I say de jure, a glorified slot machine, just without the cash out button. Well, now that you're convinced, click my link in the video description below or scan the QR code on screen to download Attack of Wrath and get 2 heroes and 10,000 crystals for free. That's 10,000 crystals. Crystals as in meth for free. What an amazing offer. You can only get this deal using my link and for a limited time only, so don't miss out. Click it now. Alright, back to the video. Circa 1994, representatives from Nintendo and Square met as they wanted to activate polymerization to fuse their respective advantages into a whole new boss monster that would hail them the king of games. Nintendo's recognizable IP combined with Square's mastery of RPGs came to form Super Mario RPG, a title so devoid of imagination that it needed a subtitle: The Legend of the Seven Stars. A turn-based role-playing game with action commands that enhanced moves used in combat, where the player controls Mario and his companions in a quest for 7 MacGuffins. When the game was released in 1996, it surpassed Nintendo's expectations and was considered a success. Unfortunately, Square had already moved on from making games for Nintendo, so we would never see another Super Mario RPG. Nintendo, Space World, 97, Chiba, Japan. Nintendo was finally ready to show the games for its 64-disc drive, which was the embodiment of an admission that cartridges might have been a mistake. One such game shown, Super Mario RPG 2. From screenshots at the time, the isometric 3D was out, and it was evident a new 2D Mario would take stage in a 2.5D world. It wasn't a huge leap from there to the paper aesthetic that would permeate the entire art design for the game. They were like 90% of the way there. The paper motif combined with Nintendo's recognizable IP came to form Paper Mario, a title so devoid of imagination that it needed a subtitle. No? That was it? Alright. Moving on. A turn-based role-playing game with action commands that enhance moves used in combat, where the player controls Mario and his companions in a quest for 7 MacGuffins. In its coverage of Space World 97, EGM hoped that it would be as good as the first one, and based on critical reception, it was. Paper Mario sits on a 93 on Metacritic, denoting universal acclaim. That said, there are no indications on Nintendo's sales expectations for the game, though I would hazard to guess that ideally sales should surpass its predecessor, at least on a relative basis. VG charts suggest the install base for the SNES was around 50 million units, with around 33 million N64s sold worldwide. This is a ratio of about 3:2. Super Mario RPG has lifetime sales of approximately 2.2 million copies, so using our metrics for success, Paper Mario would need to sell 1.47 million copies. From data collected by, again, VG charts, Paper Mario sold 1.37 million copies worldwide. So close. And we never saw another Paper Mario. Famitsu Weekly, issue 798. The first screens of a sequel to Paper Mario were published, confirming the rumors that a second game was in development, then called Paper Mario 2. A title so devoid of imagination that it needed a subtitle, and it would soon get one. The Thousand Year Door, a turn-based role-playing game with action commands that would enhance the moves used in combat, where the player controls Mario and his companions in a quest for 7 MacGuffins. Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door was more of the same, but when what came before was great, more of the same was very much welcome. The story missions were fun and imaginative, realized in a wide variety of environments, and an all-new cast of characters that had interesting backstories with some novel battle mechanics to keep things fresh. The game was well received by critics and audiences alike, with sales exceeding the original Paper Mario on an actual basis, which is more impressive given the GameCube's sale numbers, and Super Mario RPG on a relative basis. That success could spell only one thing: that we would see another. E3 2006, Los Angeles, California. Nintendo revealed a brand new 2.5D platformer with RPG elements where the player controlled Mario and his companions in a quest for 7 MacGuffins. That's not right. That's a completely different game. Maybe we will never see another Super Mario RPG. Unfortunately, much like this game series, this video must also take a conceptual detour to get paid. I want to talk about today's sponsor. Hi there. We all know that you can fit a condom on your hand, but it's not great for washing dishes or doming. There's too much friction, which is why I invest in a pair of good quality rubber gloves. And speaking of protection, this video is brought to you by Redflag VPN. Has this ever happened to you? What happened? It was working yesterday. How am I supposed to watch a real manly show? Limitless with Chris Hemsworth, or Girls Gone Wild with Bear Grylls. Ah, damn it! They must have cracked down on my use of a VPN in breach of the terms of service that they have in place to comply with their licensing agreements that they have with copyright holders. What am I supposed to do now? While you might think a VPN is a problem, it's also the solution. Red Flag has more servers than any other market VPN, so you have more options to skirt the geo-blocking used by streaming services than anywhere else. Just keep swapping servers until you find one that hasn't been identified by your streaming service of choice as a threat to their business. It's also got faster speeds than any other VPN, which, if you're thinking, why am I telling you this, don't worry about it. It's for those of you who know that VPNs slow down your internet speeds and not for you. So sign up to Red Flag with my coupon code today. Just go to redflagvpn.com, sign up to whichever plan best suits your needs, and enter Stephen James 80% off the normal price we never charge new users for anyway, all one word at checkout. That's STEPHENJAMES 80PERCENT. So I'm planning a trip to Japan later next year. And what does any white millennial do before jetting off to a non-English speaking country? Duolingo. Or Babbel. Or whatever, I don't care. I'm not sponsored. I just happen to be using Duolingo. Anyway, so I've been learning Japanese for a few months now. I know the hiragana alphabet, and I'm getting my head around katakana and kanji. I can ask for directions to Nakano Broadway, which is probably a waste of brain space in a world where Google Maps exists, but still. And I've been learning all sorts of words, like densha and otsumuriku and McDonald's. But there's one word that I got a little bit stuck on. Otoko noko, written like this, means boy, or literally male child. However, because I didn't have kanji down yet, and I'd only heard it previously, I searched it as Otoko no ko. For context, I was using a Japanese keyboard on my phone to help familiarize myself with the letters. Point is, the search results were confusing. Because yes, Otoko no ko means boy, but it also means, well, it's complicated. Otoko no ko can also be written like this. It's pronounced the same, but to translate those characters literally is male daughter. And that was the moment I knew I had encountered a rabbit hole, and I would have to shrink myself down and follow it digitally. I had to see the end of it anyway. The term developed in manga and Japanese internet culture in the 2000s, and while it is a somewhat easy task to present examples of who or what is a tokonoko, it becomes more elusive when it comes to defining the term. The term's use varies to such an extent that many definitions are vague, require exceptions, or contradict one another. Wikipedia has landed on a Japanese term for men who have a culturally feminine gender expression. In a special issue of Eureka in September 2015, Toko Tanaka, referencing a book that I couldn't get my hands on and I'd prefer not to, wrote that it refers to a beautiful cross-dressing boy. And the key to that is that although they are cross-dressed, they still retain some male element somewhere. The focus on the cross-dressing element has been criticized by others, with the need to distinguish the term from Josu Danshi or Josu Shonen. Researcher Mizuno Rei stated that the difference between the two is that a tokonoko refers to a cute, beautiful boy who looks like a girl no matter what kind of clothing he is wearing, while Josu Shonen refers to a cute, beautiful boy who wears girls' clothing. Another describes Josu Danshi as a boy who sometimes dresses up as a girl. And a tokonoko is a more independent term, referring to a boy who wants to dress up as a girl or become a girl. But Kaoru Ushima, a former AV model, read porn actor, in an interview in that aforementioned issue of Eureka, suggests that he would disagree that it would refer to a boy who wanted to become a girl, saying that an otokonoko is someone who dresses like a man and thinks himself as a man, but looks like a girl. To put it another way, it is not about the way that someone dresses, it is just about the way they are. As you can see, there are myriad schools of thought when it comes to the term, and not everyone will agree whether any given character in manga is a tokonoko or not. I would say that it is clear that externally, one would have to look like a beautiful girl to be in a tokonoko, which could include wearing typical girls' clothes or long hair. However, the internal and behavioural aspects of the character appear more difficult to nail down. Do they want to be a girl, or do they consider themselves to be a girl? If so, is the term new half more appropriate? Or are they a boy who just happens to look like a girl? Or do they dress like a girl? If so, is the term Josu Danshi more appropriate? Do they use more feminine speech styles or pronouns, or not? Pronouns can vary based on gender, as they tend to in English. But sometimes they vary based on, among other things, the formality of the situation, the social relationships of the people involved, and the geographical region. For example, the most common, watashi, a first-person pronoun, can be gender neutral. However, in more casual contexts, it is usually perceived as feminine. Use of watashi by men in these settings might give the wrong impression, like you're being too reserved or standoffish. You're not matching the vibe. Second person and third person pronouns are a similar story. Gender is a part of it, yes, but the formality of the setting and the relationships between the subjects are more likely to dictate what specific pronoun is used. Word choice and sentence enders also affect the speech style and the perceptions of its user in terms of the formality, social relationships, and gender. But before I get into that, a word from our sponsor. Ooh. Dude, what the fuck? What time is it? I don't know, 3? It's 3. You don't seem that freaked out singing Ghost for the first time. It's not. The last one tried to sell me on an ad hoc bidet. While I was on the toilet. On the toilet. Hi. Well, I'm glad I caught you at a better time. Better? I mean, I suppose. I'm still sitting with my tassels out. If you're gonna keep going, could you at least pass me a shirt? Right. Yeah, I suppose that's on me. What do you want? It's throwing me a bit. But don't worry about it. Just do it however you were gonna do it. Ooh, I'm the ghost of mattresses past. We spend a third of our lives sleeping, and that's a hell of a lot of time to be spending on a bad mattress. That's where ToppSleep comes in. Are you a side sleeper, a hot sleeper? Take their quick sleep questionnaire. A few minutes and 94 questions later, and you can shop with confidence, knowing which of their 4 mattresses suits your sleep style. Yeah, I was barely listening. I just googled these mattresses, and they're about the same price as a big box mattress store. And I can actually get a mattress in a box shipped to me right now for about a third of the price. I just needed to scroll past the first 5 Google results. Yes, but ToppSleep uses the highest quality and eco-conscious materials so that you can have the best night's sleep possible. It's like sleeping on a cloud made of God's pubes. It's a mattress. Even if it is better, it's not 3 times better. It's a mattress. It's not LSD. Oh. Do you have any LSD? Get out! In late 2022, I was feeling deflated with the state of media at the time. I felt as if characters no longer failed, that the stakes and conflict protagonists faced did not effectively challenge them. Now, this is not entirely true, but there are a few that come to mind. With its first episode released in May 2022, Kenobi followed Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi between the events of Episode 3 and 4, as well as a young Princess Leia. I enjoyed the series just fine. Ewan McGregor is one of my favourite actors, and I like the prequel trilogies a weird amount. But thing is, more than once I found myself thinking, this feels too easy. One of the first scenes, one of the first chances for the show to impress itself upon the audience, Leia is being chased by bounty hunters through the woods. And it is, more than anything, comical. The music and shot composition are trying very hard to convey tension, but what is actually on screen is fully grown adults clearly pretending to run while matching the speed of a child and then running into a branch they just watched Leia duck under. What the fuck? This scene is hilarious, and more so with how serious it purports to be. Then, at the climax of the series, spoilers, when Obi-Wan faces off against Darth Vader, he gets absolutely whooped, even on easy difficulty, and has to enter a cheat code to activate God mode. At that point, Darth Vader, one of the most terrifying and imposing villains in movie canon, is dispatched with little effort. Vader can't deal if you jump off a rock. Ugh, my weakness. Rudimentary parkour. Don't get me wrong, it's very cool, but that's all it is. Spectacle. It could have been so much more satisfying if the challenges faced were matched only by the skill and determination of the characters involved. In more fancy words, Dr. Gustav Freytag describes this in his Technique of the Drama as the characters must correspond to such a meaning of the action in order that the play may produce a noble effect. If the action is constructed in conformity with the stated law and the characters are inadequate to the demands thus created, the incongruity is painfully apparent to the spectator. So at this time, as I was in this headspace, I was served up a video by the YouTube algorithm called She-Hulk, a lesson in terrible writing by the channel The Critical Drinker. This fed into that confirmation bias and the perceptions I had about She-Hulk from social media. Some of you might have heard of this channel, but by way of explanation, The Drinker is a persona used by his creator to comedically critique media. Critique should probably also have air quotes. But I hadn't seen She-Hulk, so I didn't know any better and watched that video, and then a few more of his as they popped up. One such video was a review of Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, and he just didn't seem to get it? And that got me thinking, was he right about any of it? I was starting to think that maybe, just maybe, all the anti-feminist, anti-woke jokes thrown in were actually intended by the drinker to be legitimate critiques. And thus the spell was broken. The drinker has a general, I would say, right-wing bias. And this bias infects his work and his ability to critique a piece of media. Any criticisms of function and form give way to arguments about things being too woke. The implication being that that is inherently bad. Even his Glass Onion review has this flavour. In his mind, all of the characters are stupid and the plot is a convoluted mess of secret meetings and identical twins, rather than a crafted satire of murder mystery tropes packaging a pointed critique of the myth of meritocracy. He's dumb and rich, and there is no contradiction. That is clearly the intention. How well you think that it has been crafted, well, that's up to you. My thinking is whether consciously or unconsciously, the drinker felt a need to defend Elon Musk, who is clearly an impetus for the main villain. Come at me. Again, to quote Dr. Freytag, the entertained hearer surrenders himself gladly to the invention of the poet. He brings with him before the stage a certain knowledge of the historical relations, definite ethical and moral demands upon human life, presages and a clear knowledge of the course of events. To a certain extent, it is impossible for him to renounce this purport of his own life, and sometimes he feels it very strongly when the poetic picture contradicts it. The drinker holds so strongly his view that women are physically weaker than men, that any contradiction of this in any work, of fiction mind you, is a dreadful indictment.
You're always going to have a tough time selling a fight between a man and a woman on screen, for obvious reasons. Men are generally bigger, stronger and more robust, with denser and heavier bones, stronger muscles, broader shoulders, longer limbs and superior upper body strength.
But what of She-Hulk? She's a Hulk. Hulk. She's gotta be stronger than men, right? Well, I've seen the first episode now, and I still didn't like it, but not for the same reasons as The Drinker. In his video, he takes it upon himself to try and improve the story of She-Hulk, largely by taking agency away from the main character and giving it to the men around her. I don't know if he knew he was doing that, but that theme did emerge. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, so I'll attribute it to unconscious bias. Fixes included her male co-worker taking over the closing arguments in court, Jen getting knocked unconscious instead of Bruce and Bruce having to save her, the scene of her being harassed outside of the bar happening before she has Hulk powers, leaving her with little to do but cower as they get more surly and abusive and... where is this going? What?
They get bored and leave her alone.
Oh, they just get bored and leave? Okay, well that's better than the other option. And lastly, just generally shutting up to allow Bruce to impart all of his wisdom. To be fair, I am simplifying a little bit, and I am going to break down each of these and how it operates to confirm his biases, but you'll have to wait a moment while a version of me I filmed earlier tells you about this video's sponsor. I'd say that was pretty decent. Hey there, see you in the middle of shaving and you are. How often do you run out of razors? Pretty much never. It's not that hard to go to a store. Why does everything have to be a subscription? I'm sick of beginning to cancel these things and having it show up on my credit cards. What if I told you there's an easy way of getting a top quality razor and blades shipped to you every month so you never have to worry about running out ever again? Are you listening to me? Let me ask you this. How much do you spend on razors every year? I don't know, man. 20, 25 bucks? Shit. Really? Well, you pay a bit for quality and convenience. I mean, look at this build quality. Yeah, that one looks a lot like the one I bought from Amazon. Yeah, it even has the same connector. But if you sign up to Bux Razors today and use the promo code StephenJames40, you get 40% off your first month and a free shaving balm. Balm? It's a kind of salve. I know. Salve? Whatever. Are these white label products? White label products? You know, generic products that you just put your label on? Yeah, I know. Then why did you... Can you not hear me? No, I'm agreeing with you. Do you mean I don't think you need that much water to shave. Maybe what you need is a better razor. As I got to that last section, you already might have figured this out, but this video has always been leading us here. To the stairs. Apparently. On the 23rd of May 2024, a remake of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door was released worldwide, and there was discourse.
Nintendo and their localization. It's not the first time they've had woke ideologies inserted into their localization, and it's probably not going to be the last.
It's been debated whether Vivian's exact identity was transgender.
But in America, what they do is they just wokeify everything. The original Japanese version of the game describes the character as an Konoko?
I've talked to a lot of people on Twitter that are really into this game, and everyone is unanimous on this definition of what it is. A femboy. But they're not trans. Like, I don't know how to tell this to Kotaku.
I guess the Japanese version of a drag queen or a crossdresser. I don't know.
I'm not trying to be some kind of bigot here, but let's be real.
That's what they do. They take a orokonoko and they turn it into a transgender character. But unfortunately, again, when you give it to a woke localizer, those definitions go out the window.
Essentially, it's DEI crap.
No, hold on. You are not one of our sisters. You are a whole man. So
Kotaku came out the gates with Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door remake restores a party member's trans identity, referring to the character of Vivian. The use of the word restores suggests that it was something that had always been there, but had been removed in the past. Bounding into comics was less explicit, stating that Vivian was, quote, always intended as gender non-conforming to some extent, whether a crossdresser, an effeminate man, or an outright transgender individual, end quote, without taking a position one way or another. This is all true from a certain point of view. In the original Japanese version in 2004, as translated by several people using Google Translate, Vivian refers to the Shadow Trio, herself, Beldam and Marilyn, as the three sisters. Beldam reacts by chastising Vivian, asking, "Where are these three sisters? Aren't you a man?" She uses the term shimai, made from the characters she, meaning older sister, and mai, meaning younger sister, or collectively sisters. In other words, female siblings. She clearly identifies as a girl, but Beldam calls her an otoko, or a man. And then later, when Vivian is sent looking for that grenade-looking thing, super bonbon? Okay. She says, if you don't find it, your sister will give you a really bad blowjob. And, thank you, I'm glad. Now I don't have to get fucked. You okay, Google Translate? I think you need to go home. Give me your keys. We'll get you an Uber, alright? Further context can be found in the game of Super Paper Mario. In that game, there were these collectibles called catch cards. They weren't particularly useful, so if you don't remember them, I don't blame you. But you could purchase these catch cards for your companions for the first two games, and Toad. In the Japanese version of the game, Vivian's card read, one of Mario's partners introduced in Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, a cute boy wielding fire magic who was once part of a group of enemies known as the Shadow Trio. But more specifically, the katakana for Otokonoko, which, because of the target audience of these games skewing younger, we don't get the clarity of the kanji, being either male child or male daughter. In 2004, the English localization of The Thousand Year Door removed all the nuances in favour of identifying Vivian as a girl and having always been a girl. And the friction between her and her sisters changed to being about her being stupid and ugly. But the remake's localization includes lines like, truth is, it took me a while to realise that I was their sister, not their brother. So is this restoring her trans identity? Well, to confuse things further, that line is in place of, I have a boy's body, but my heart's a cute girl's, from the Japanese version of the game. Also, the personal pronoun that Vivian uses is a tai, which is considered quite effeminate, generally only used by girls and young women in the Shitamachi area of Tokyo. If this reminds you of some of the things I said about Otoko Noko earlier, I agree. However, Otokonoko is not a cultural phenomenon that can be simply translated to an English audience. This is partly due to Japanese culture not having a set definition for this term, and partly due to the differences in culture that prevent you from superimposing one onto the other. I don't think we have anything in our culture that precisely translates to Otokonoko. It's not quite what we typically think of as trans, but it kind of is. And it's not what we think of as cross-dressing, but kind of is. So it's not an easy task to translate Vivian's character in a way that considers the underlying understanding of her character and not just the literal meaning of the words. But trans is one way, and in my opinion, the best way of approximating the Otokonoko nature of Vivian specifically for English-speaking audiences. And that's what the localization team did. So why do these people oppose this translation, insisting that Vivian is a crossdresser and always has been? Well, that's actually easy. Their biases prevent them from engaging with the art on its terms. They have a view they hold so strongly that when contradicted by a creative work, that interpretation must be rejected. And that is that there are only two genders.
Most people living in reality believe that there are only two genders.
When you say male or female when it comes to genders, they think there's a gajillion different genders out there.
there are people who cross-dress. That's it. But there's no such thing as being a different gender than you were born.
We all know in 2024, we can't define what a woman is, and because of that, we have to also acknowledge that there's more genders than just male and female out there.
There's only two genders. Sorry, not sorry. This generation of weirdos, no.
This necessitates a reading that Vivian is a crossdresser. The ambiguity of the character in the original Japanese, and of Otokonoko more generally, at least from the perspective of an English-speaking audience, and their ignorance of the cultural nuances, allows them to position themselves in opposition to trans identities, whilst also claiming to be originalists, defending the original intentions of the Japanese creators. Even though a lot of these commentators oppose femboys or cross-dressing or other forms of gender nonconformity like they them pronouns as being perverse, they are more than happy to position them as preferable, when the alternative is binary trans representation. It is bigotry of convenience.